Ladies and gentlemen, this is RJ Loeb from Gamious, one of the devs of Turmoil. He's going to be talking about their marketing campaign. It's called Letters from 1899 as a worldwide marketing campaign on a $300 budget. And once I think towards the end of your thing, I will show off the letter that you sent, because RJ was kind enough to send me one of those letters that they are talking about from 1899 because he is a time traveler. So, without further ado, please continue.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just like to start with saying thank you. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions, just ask. I've got all the parts, the moving parts here with me, and I'll discuss them separately in a second. And while I'm doing that, you might want to open your letter. I've sent you the letter that we've sent out to a little over 50 people worldwide. And the original idea behind that was, of course, to get attention to our game. We've worked on a game for a couple of years. It was in early access for one. And during that time, we tried to reach out to press and YouTubers and Twitchers especially to try and get this, to try and get Turmoil some eyeballs, because otherwise you're not going to sell any copies. So we tried to do that during the year of early access by focusing on YouTube channels and Twitch channels that have a target audience that really likes PC simulation strategy games. So what we didn't do was write 1,000 emails to any YouTube channel available, because I thought that would be a big waste of time. So we tried to target a lot of YouTube channels, smaller ones as well. We weren't just looking for the big channels. We wanted to make sure that the channels that got a key for Turmoil would actually have a reasonable chance of redeeming the key and playing the game. And that worked out pretty well. We had Dragost playing in August about a year ago. He played through the whole game, and he had some really nice viewer numbers with it. And Generic B, I think you mentioned him earlier, he also played Turmoil, and that really helped us see that there's a good conversion from views to sales if you can get the right people to play your game. But of course, there's some YouTubers out there that have silly amounts of subscribers that you really would like to see play your game, and those are not very accessible, very difficult to reach. They don't have email addresses, obviously, but some do have physical addresses, and we thought that was a chance where we're old school gamers ourselves, and we're old. We used to work in journalism, and there was a time when it was really normal to get a package of goodies for a journalist or a content creator, like a physical pack of goodies and the game to show off your game and have some fun stuff. That's kind of outdated now, because everybody's gone to the press kits and digital stuff, easy trailers to download, screenshots. And we thought we'd kind of do a throwback and pick 50 addresses that were difficult to reach otherwise, and write them a letter straight out of our game. So we decided this about a half a year before release. It's the kind of marketing campaign that you don't want to do a month before your game comes out. It's really stuff that you need to think about ahead of time, so that you can kind of incorporate it into your game or incorporate your game into your marketing campaign. In the end, for instance, we've wrote an old letter. I'll talk about it later, but this was written and signed by hand by Henry, and Henry is a character in the expert mode of the game. So the whole campaign ties in with the game, and I think that's really important. That makes it more authentic, and when it's more authentic, people will obviously like it more. And yeah, that's kind of when we started thinking about this campaign half a year in advance. And then we didn't do anything until about 3 months in advance, but it was constantly in our minds, and it was this little idea that simmered and started to grow, and it finally became something real. And about 2 months in advance, we really started ramping up our marketing ideas, and this was still the most valid one. So we started writing, and I think in the end we ended up with one. I'll show this. This is an old letter written by Henry, and it's written to a long lost relative, and that long lost relative is the YouTuber or the press, the guy from the press. With that letter comes an oil deed that looks like that. We'll show it up nice and close. And on that oil deed, we would put someone's name and the Steam code. And you'll see that when you unpack yours in a second, there's actually a Steam code on it, which hasn't been redeemed yet. So you might want to do something fun with that later on. And we had an old envelope that we made dirty. I'll go through the steps in a bit. And then there was another letter that we put on top of everything by the American Letter Mail Company, which is a mail company that existed in the 19th century. It actually did. There's a funny story behind that, which I'll tell. And we sealed everything off with wax, like that old school wax where they close letters off with, and then have this little neat stamp. See if you can. I think it's a French lily that we use to stamp it. And there was a little bit of a rope tied around the whole thing, that old canvasy rope. And that's the only thing that's missing on your end, because right during our launch window, we also had to move offices, which is not a good idea. I do not recommend it to any developer, indie or otherwise. Don't move houses during your release date, but there was no help for it. So with all of that in mind, we started writing the text for the oil deeds, writing the text for the letters, both of them. And we actually had, I would say 2 months in advance, we had 3 or 4 reasonable texts that we were confident were good enough to put on the letters themselves. But 2 weeks later, we didn't feel they were good enough. They were kind of not tied into the game well enough. So we rewrote 2 of them. And actually the writing part took a lot of time. The physical part of making all this also took me about 2 weeks to make 50 letters and handcraft them each individually. But writing the text and getting that to a level that we were super confident that it looked good took at least that much time, and we did that with 2 or 3 people. So the first thing, and I'm gonna pack it like it was sent. I'm gonna just do it like that. But we made the letter on the outside. This is the way we packed it, and like you showed just before, it was in a clear envelope, an envelope that we had to kind of try and find on the internet. We wanted to have it in a clear envelope because we did need to package it and postage it like a normal envelope, but we wanted to make sure that the recipient would immediately see that there was something special inside. If we would have packaged it in just a clear envelope, then it would have ended up somewhere on the mail heaps, and we really want them to stand out. So we put this letter on the outside with a red border. So see if you can see that. And it says important mail. We actually had priority mail, the official priority mail logo there. And about a day before we started mailing them out, we removed that and put important mail there, and something that looked like it, because I was scared that we would have to pay like a priority fee, and then they would keep the letters in the US Postal somewhere and never deliver them. So to be safe, we turned it into important mail, but it kind of it replicates the priority mail color and font type and everything. It was folded like this, so you could also see the logo of the American Letter Mail Company. I don't know if that's in focus, but the American Letter Mail Company was created in 1844 by an independent guy who wanted to run it up against the U.S. Postal. U.S. Postal was a monopoly at the time, and I can't remember the guy's name now, but he wanted to he wanted to just to see if he could build a business on post, and he started shipping post for people in packages with carts and wagons, the same type that we use in the game. And I think the company existed for about 9 years when it was handily removed by the government, because the U.S. Postal it belongs to the government and they didn't want any competition. But that was a fun little touch, and there's some cool t-shirts that you can get with this very beautiful logo of a bald eagle delivering mail or something. So really cool. And we have put this text on the outside, and I'm going to read it to you. It's really short. Dear Sir, Madam, in the process of the recent relocations of our offices, we stumbled upon something left unnoticed for a century, a mail bag. After conducting research using infrared technology, we've been able to ascertain what was written on the faded envelope. Further investigation on one of the individual letters ended with a genealogical research. It concluded that the accompanied letter was intended to be delivered to your great-great-great-great-grandfather. It is with a mix of joy and sincere regret that the American Letter Mail Company hereby delivers you, the inheritant, this letter, first mailed in 1899. Sincerely, the American Letter Mail Company. So we thought that would be something to kind of lure people in, and maybe they could laugh about a little bit, and also tie in the fact that we're not living in the 19th century anymore. We had to have one specific link to make sure that, okay, we're still living in modern day and it's something that's important now, but we're going to take you back to 1899, and that's what this letter was for. Then we had an envelope, and we used two sorts of envelopes. These are the two different kinds, the light brown ones and the darker brown ones. And you can see on the dark brown ones, this isn't done super nice, but we've each of the envelopes have been dirtied and put through a muddy mixture of sand and water to give them this grimy old look and feel. And it's worked especially well with the lighter envelopes. This one's just a regular envelope, but it really looks old and it feels good as well. The texture, it was a textured envelope, but it became a little bit rough and it's sandy. You can feel that this envelope actually went through something. So that was kind of a nice touch. And then when you open that envelope, the first thing you see is this part of the letter. I'm gonna hope that it's in focus, but it's dated to 26th of May 1899 in Houston. And the paper that it's on is also hand-picked. It's not just regular white paper. It's a little bit thicker, and it's not super white. It's kind of a biodegradable paper, so it's not super white. It's a little bit tinted, which worked well for us. And all of these, and I made 60 by hand, were soaked in tea, old tea, to make them look like old letters, and baked for about 8 minutes. So you can kind of count how much time that took me. And they were kind of scrubbed and dirtied, so they actually had this cool feel. And here on the bottom, there's this H. I don't know if you can see that, but those are all signed by hand with a special pen that has like a calligraphy tip. So when the recipients would open this and read this, it would say, "Dear cousin, the boat journey across the Atlantic was long and harsh, but I've arrived safely. I immediately traveled west to the promised oil-rich lands of Texas. I was not disappointed. It's not easy to make a living in the oil industry. I've seen some very tough times, but I've managed to do it, and then some. I'm sure you can do the same. We've talked about it before, and I know you're not the biggest risk taker, but now that I've gotten something going here, I really think you should join me. Please accept my final attempt to convince you. The enclosed deed gives you the rights to mine a plot of land, filled to the brim with oil. All that's left for you now is to hop on a boat and get here before all the oil is gone. Warm regards and safe travels, your cousin, Henry. So, unbeknownst to the recipient, Henry is a character in the game, which hopefully they will learn because they start playing the game. And finally, inside that letter was this deed, an oil deed. And I actually took inspiration from existing oil deeds with the border here. This is a logo that we once had for Turmoil, but kind of discounted later on. So it's a logo we once made and thought we wasted time on because it didn't really fit the in-game style, and we got to use it on this oil deed. So it's a bonus for us. And this the letter logo, it's actually the first time that we used the logo that's now in the game. At the time of writing that we created these, there was still a different logo in the game itself. So everything kind of came together. I'm not going to read this because it's a bit boring. I took this from actual existing oil deeds and I changed it a little bit. It goes a little bit, I'll read one sentence. Gamious, grantor, hereinafter called grantor, has granted and does now grant to, then I would write the name, grantee, hereinafter, blah, 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 blah. It was like pure legal text. It did say one thing, though the following described games situated in Steam, Valve Corporation, which they actually had to read pretty thoroughly before they knew where they would be able to redeem the code. Of course, a lot of people would maybe recognize the amount of letters and digits that Steam code usually has. And one other, I think, notable thing is that it's dated May 22nd, 1899, and is valid for 170 years henceforth, which of course was about a week before our release. That's actually also, we wanted to release a week earlier, but we didn't manage it, but it was fine. It kind of, if they were counting years, they would end up in 2016, 26th of May, and okay, we need to do something quick. And then we say something about it's not payment and you can do with it whatever you want. So we wanted to make sure that they didn't feel obliged or bought or anything. And then we would sign it. This one isn't signed, but we'd sign it in the bottom with the calligraphy pen signing William. And William is actually the banker in town. If you start Turmoil, the second building that you're going to get is the bank by William. So he signed every oil deed. And that was the whole package. And we sent out 50, and they had a special Steam tracking code, so we knew we were able to see when one was redeemed. And the first one that was redeemed was in the Jersey Islands, which we knew to be Sips from the Yogscast crew, which is someone we tried to reach because he likes to play AAA stuff, but he also likes indie stuff, and he's actually a fun gamer, and he really enjoys his indie games as well. So it's someone we tried to reach before, but couldn't. But he was the first one to redeem a code, and he played the game and made a couple of videos about a week before release, and we immediately saw an increase in sales. So we were like, right then we were happy. We thought, okay, all of this work that we've done, it took me about 2 weeks folding and baking letters and teeing them, was already worth it. So that was awesome. And he had a good time. A little bit later, like you guys mentioned earlier, I think Markiplier also did a video on Turmoil. Interestingly enough, the video got much more views than the Sips videos, but conversion to sales is much less. And we think it's because Markiplier is more like the entertainment of the video, not necessarily the game. So I think a lot of players or people watch him to just enjoy that guy's character. But of course, it did get over 1 million views, so that's always good to get eyeballs on your game. But the point I made before of trying to look at YouTube channels that match your target audience instead of just trying to get the biggest ones, really kind of came up to the surface right there when Sips played our game, had less viewers but a much better conversion rate, and then Markiplier played it as well. And since then, a couple of others, about 10 people have redeemed the code right now, so a lot of letters never arrived at their destination. We sent codes to Kotaku, GameSpot, the regular big news organizations, but they just it probably never reaches him, stays with his secretary somewhere, or ends up in the bin, which is a shame. But it reached its goal, and Turmoil had some great coverage right during its launch window and when it was on sale in Steam with a discount. So all in all, we were super happy that it worked out that way. We spent about $300 on this, mostly on postage stamps and the envelopes and reprinting the letters because we made a couple of stupid errors in the text, that kind of thing. And it shows that you can, as a small developer, you can actually do something big with a small budget, but with a big idea. And that's what we did, and it worked out, and we're super happy about it. So I hope you guys like that.
So, quick question for you. You guys did it all on this tiny budget, and it took you said about 2 weeks. What kind of returns? You did say you saw a boost in sales, but would you say it was a worthy endeavor?
No, absolutely. It was a worthy endeavor as soon as Sips played the game, because don't know if I can remember the exact amounts, but I think after the first day that he played, we sold like 1,000 to 1,500 copies. In the days,
wow.
the 2 days past. Yeah, so like
that makes up for the
immediately at that point, like the costs were covered and we're making a profit on the letters, at least, not on the whole development, of course. But no, so it's absolutely worth every cent and all the time that we spent. No doubt about it.
Any of you out there who have questions for RJ, feel free to type them into the chat. We're watching for that. So you said you used tea for dirtying the envelopes?
Yeah, it's a really old trick, but you kind of get tea and you make it really dark, so you let it sit for 2 hours. It needs to be lukewarm or cold anyway, so just let it sit. And I use an oven tray, put 1 or 2 letters in there, pour tea over them, and then really start rubbing it in, because those, like the paper that you buy is got a little bit of a resistant layer or something. It takes a little bit for it to sink in, and once it really gets into the heart of the paper, and then you start kind of rubbing your fingers on it or making scratches with your nails just to make it look old and worn and torn. And then what I would do is just like shake all the excess tea off it. It would still be wet, but no, it wasn't sitting in a pool of tea. And I would just bake it for 8 minutes. I had to turn it over once or twice, but yeah, it worked really well. And the result is, especially if you don't use super white paper to start off with, but like a little bit of a tint, it works really well. And if you try it, it's really easy.
Since you sent me a letter, I'll open it on stream. I'm actually going to excuse the camera mess for a second. I'm going to go back to the 3-frame, and it's just going to be me because I'm going to close out everyone else's camera so it's not all weird looking. But so that way I can show the camera here.
While he's doing that though, one of our audience says, did you plan this from the beginning of the project, or does each game that you guys work on get its own strategy?
Oh, well, we didn't plan this from the beginning, but it was planned about halfway through early access. We really we were doing pretty well in early access, and I think you guys discussed that as well before the break. We spent exactly 1 year in early access, but we never meant to. We wanted to spend 6 months there. but especially when Dragos started making videos, sales went up, and feedback also got a lot better. So we noticed that there was just something missing in the game. It was an end game. We didn't have a proper end game at that time, and we knew we just couldn't release it as it was. So we decided to just keep going and keep working until it was done, essentially, and that took us 6 months more than expected. It did give us more time to kind of think about what we wanted to do. So about 6 months into early access, this came up. We do separate stuff for every game that we launch. Having said that, Turmoil was the first one that we had a full-time PR/marketing person, me, working with us. I was a producer for our company first, and I moved to PR and marketing because it was just, I think a lot of indies have the problem of getting recognized and getting your game out there, and I don't think a lot of indies have someone working full-time on marketing. And it's something that we chose to do a year ago, and it was difficult because you don't get immediate returns. It takes a while, but in the end we're glad we did, because of the reach we got and the amount of views and YouTube videos. If you look up Turmoil, it's just filled with videos, so we're doing something right.
All right. Real quick, was there more question or?
Peter also wanted to know, did you think about using lemon juice for secret messages on it?
That'd be
good one. No, I should have.
That'd be good for the codes if you could.
Yeah. Extra codes, good one.
So I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna go open up the envelope. This is what he sent me. What he showed you.
So it's missing the rope. It had a little rope around it as well. The other one. I
showed everyone my address, but whatever. All right. Whoops. So, anyone wants to stalk me? All right. This is the letter that he read. I won't read it to you because it says same thing, except for it's the same thing. But I thought it was pretty cool that you used an actual company. That would have gotten my attention right off the bat. So there's that.
Yeah, the logo is really nice as well. It's just something. Also because that company existed at the exact almost the same time that our game is played, so it just worked really well.
This is the dirty envelope. That is tea, or so he claims.
Well, that's dirt and mud, I think.
Yeah, that's dirt and mud.
It's tea that made it like
age color.
Yeah, that's the inside. So the letter inside has tea in it.
There's the seal, which actually I thought was really cool too.
Yeah,
I didn't open that up yet.
No, it's a small touch, but it immediately gives this. It's you can feel it as well. You can rub your hand over it, so it gives this old-fashioned feel really quickly, and it's super easy to do.
All right, there is the letter.
A very unconventional unboxing.
Yeah.
The best unboxing video ever.
Yeah.
Again with the old tint, and it's all wrinkled and aged, and I see where it's kind of right here. It looks like you shredded it with your nail. You said. Yeah. Did you? Dirty nail. You didn't write this letter by hand, did you?
No.
I was going to say.
No, that's a font. So that's printed, and actually our first tries with that font and just teeing printed paper was a bust, because we used there's two different types of printers, inkjet and laser, right? And we use an inkjet printer to try it all out, but the inkjet it puts ink on the page, so it would wash out and had this pink outline. So the whole page became pink, and it was just really weird. And first we didn't know what it was, but then when we went to the print shop, they use inkjet. They use laser printing, which kind of burns it into the paper, so there is no ink. Right. So when we did the tea thing on those, it was fine.
Did you think about maybe singeing the edges? Because a lot of times people age paper by using a lighter on the edges.
Well, but it's been in an envelope for 170 years.
I was just
exactly. what he says. We
All right.
actually thought about it, wanted to do it, and then someone said, "Yeah, but how about the envelope? How can the letter be singed if the envelope is fine?"
Maybe it was,
So,
maybe it was
good
burned
point.
in a giant oil.
So that's actually a good
Explosion.
decision because it saves work as well.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So you,
Trying to decide if I should give away this code or not.
you can do with it.
Well,
Whatever.
yeah. But I mean, like, because I don't know how I'm going to tell if someone used
Grabs
it or
it.
not. Yeah,
Yeah. Just use it, Josh.
yeah. I'll use it for myself because I haven't played it
Go
yet.
ahead.
But
Oh,
because I have other
that's for you.
I have other codes if I want to give it away later.
That's the special one.
Yeah.
I
But,
think
let me-
I want to say. Sorry, I want to say this is by far one of the coolest marketing ideas that I've seen in the indie sphere. And Peter and I were kind of talking a little bit in chat, and he says he loves that this kind of stuff happens because it's when it's well done, especially now in the digital age. There's getting something real in your hands that comes to you it's really kind of exciting. It's one of those things that just kind of makes you just jump and be like, yes, I can't wait.
Now that is also one of the important things that we wanted to give people, and especially with that little stamp thing. I don't know what the wax mold thing.
Seal, yeah.
A
How many
seal.
times the seals? Thank you very much. How many times have you gotten a letter with a seal on it in your life? Never. Right? So it's immediately it's a special thing, and in the last years, the way to get hyped or marketing is some kind of viral thing that obviously had to be digital because people have to share it. That's very hard. A, it's very hard to do, to think of a good one. B, and if you put all your effort into that, we have a funny trailer, but it hasn't been picked up yet, and it probably won't. But this was something that we thought was worth trying, and the physical aspect of it is what makes it good, because we could have sent these, we actually planned to but didn't. We could have sent the digital copies to any email address that we wanted, right? Just with images, and we'll send them this, and we send them we've got digital copies of everything, and we can make them look old in Photoshop. That's no problem. But the fact that it's physical and that you get this letter with a seal, nobody's ever had that. You want to open that, and once you start opening it, you're in.
I think that if you were going to do it digitally, it would be really funny if you actually scanned a physical version that you made, so it does look old and it looks
Oh, yeah.
like this company actually found this letter and then took a picture and we're like, this is what we can send you if
Yeah,
you're
you
sending
can-
people emails. But
Yeah, you can put
not the
layer on
same.
layer. No, it's
Yeah.
not the same. But it's, I mean, I might actually still do it. Send them out digitally when we do our first content update or something, and we still want to reach a couple of people rather quickly. We can do that. It's easy, but it won't have the same impact as the physical stuff.
Did you get picked up by other press sites, like other than YouTubers? No.
YouTubers, yes. Press, no. Yeah,
Really?
it's just we talked about it in house a lot, and we also have a good press agency that kind of helps us out. It didn't work on this campaign, but we just talk to every now and then. And she was actually at Develop this week in Brighton as a development important get together, and talking to Eurogamer and those kinds of people. And it's just, we are not gonna, for a big site, we are not gonna get loads of hits, right? So it's just not profitable to take your time out and discuss an old letter sent by an indie company. I mean, maybe this could be cool enough to warrant an article, but still, like we of course watch our competition, or just other indie games that have kind of a similar mold and are about the same price, and we've noticed some games getting a coverage or a review on Kotaku, and it's awesome. We would like that, but it does nothing for their sales. Like, the YouTubers and Twitchers are the new press, and if you can reach those people, you know that you're in good hands because they're gamers, and you know you can reach your target audience, and that's so much harder if you go through like IGN.com, Polygon. I can name them all. It would be awesome to get Turmoil featured on there, but it doesn't do that much.
Yeah, maybe that would be worth sending the digital copies to, so that way it doesn't take out the cost.
No, because I can imagine that it didn't reach them. Like
it probably gets buried in their mail pile.
Yeah, you have to guess, and they always belong to bigger corporations, and the bigger corporations have an address that you can send stuff to, but it's probably not the same building that the game editors are in. So it's kind of unfair for me to say, okay, they didn't do anything. They probably don't know about it. It's just so hard to reach them. But that's kind of the essence of the problem. It's so hard to reach them. We're a small company. We don't have the money yet to go to all the American-based events, like the PAXs and the GDCs and all that kind of stuff. We do go to Gamescom in Cologne because that's close to us. We're from Amsterdam. But a lot of the big news sites or the US news sites don't go there, or at least they don't go to the business side. They just go to the bigger commercial stands and talk about the newest, biggest announcements and games. And I totally understand that, but it's very hard for us to get like a personal contact, someone that you can just mail once or twice a year and say, hey, we got this new game or we got this update. It's just very hard to reach them. And I think there's so much room for improvement there. And I think that space in between is getting filled by YouTubers, but there's more. Like in the two or 3 years, everything's going to change, of course, because it constantly does. But there's definitely opportunities.
Now, I had a thought that occurred to me. Have you, as I was trying to create a poll that is for some reason not working on the chat, would you consider making these as kind of a collectible item that could be purchased along with the game, like a special,
as a special edition? No.
Yeah.
No. No, just because it's just takes a lot of time and effort, and if we need to start mailing stuff to 300 people, then we're okay, I was going to say a bad word, but that's not good. Then we have a lot of trouble. So this is manageable because we did 50 of them, and of course we could do kind of simpler versions. Maybe we could do that, but it's just as soon as we have to like pay for postage, then it's going to be trouble. So the other option would be that we could do it, but then it would just cost a lot of money for the buyers. And then it would take us a lot of time, right? So it's just not really a valid option. It might be something that we could do in if we get like a Turmoil. We've got great music in the game, and we want to do the soundtrack. Add the soundtrack on Steam at one point, maybe like for $1, and then there's digital special editions. It could be added to a digital special edition, and we pick some nice concept art that we did to develop it. That would be a possibility, but only as a download on Steam, I think.
Yeah, we've got a pretty big YouTuber. I think it's Sunday. He's doing a panel, but maybe we can get you connected with him. Maybe he'll do it on his channel.
Oh, please.
It's one of. Yeah, it's MyScarb.
Yeah, Sunday at 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe get you in touch with him. That will help out.
Yeah. Maybe you can give the code to him.
Yeah.
I'm going on holiday tomorrow, so I'm going to be out. But
well,
yeah, absolutely.
We'll let him know for you.
Yeah, just give my email address. It'll be fine, and he'll just have to wait 2 weeks, but it'll be good.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, that is RJ Loeb. Letters from 1899 as a worldwide marketing campaign on a $300 budget. I hope you enjoyed and got a little something out of that. Thank you, RJ, for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I can't wait to try out Turmoil. Maybe I'll put it on my own Let's Plays.
Good luck.
I'm no Markiplier or Sips, but we'll see.
I think your audience is more the target audience, so that's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's true. So, with that said, RJ, no offense, I'm going to kick you out of the.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And,
have a great event.
We're going to go on the standby, so stick through to that and listen to me.
And that's all ready for everybody.